She said she needed help reaching the top shelf. But the way she looked at me when she said it, that wasn't about a shelf. The store was quiet, mid-afternoon, sunlight stretching thin through the wide windows, catching the edges of her hair. I'd seen her before. Not often, just enough to notice the small things. How she never rushed her words, how her laugh always came half a second late, like she was deciding if the world deserved to hear it. She was standing in the aisle with her hand on the edge of a ladder, a jar of honey too high above her. "Could you?" she started, and I was already stepping closer. Her voice carried that calm tone people use when they're used to being in control. But when she tilted her head up, the faintest line appeared between her brows. A moment of hesitation. Vulnerability disguised as a simple request. I reached past her, the sleeve of my shirt brushing against her arm. That should have been nothing. Just skin, fabric, air. But the moment stretched. Her perfume, something soft, like amber and citrus, filled the space between us, and I forgot what I was reaching for. "You've got long arms," she said quietly, almost smiling. I could hear the warmth behind it, but her eyes didn't move away from mine. Too steady, too aware. I handed her the jar. She took it without looking, fingers grazing my wrist. Not by accident. A pause lingered there, small but deliberate. Then she pulled her hand back, smoothing her hair like she hadn't done anything at all. "Thank you," she said, but her voice dipped a little lower, like it carried something else. I should have walked away. I didn't. Instead, I asked, "Do you need help with anything else?" Her smile tilted. Not sweet, not practiced, but almost amused. "You offering?" She said it like a joke, but her tone didn't match her words. Came out softer, quieter. The kind of question that wasn't meant to be answered. I shifted the jar between my hands just to do something. The air around us felt too still. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. There was a small tremor in her inhale, the kind that says more than words do. When she finally spoke again, her voice had lost its calm. "Actually," she said, turning slightly toward me. Her hand brushed mine again, the second time now. "There's one more thing." "What is it?" She didn't answer right away, just stepped closer. The faint click of her heels against the tile sounded louder than it should have. Her hand found my waist. Light, uncertain, but there. She looked up, her breath almost touching my neck. "I just needed help reaching." Her words came out half a whisper, half a confession. For a second, neither of us moved. Every sound in the store disappeared. The hum of the lights, the low music, even the air conditioner. Just the two of us, standing too close to pretend it meant nothing. Then a voice broke through the silence. Someone calling her name from down the aisle. She stepped back like the air between us had snapped. Her hand fell to her side, but her eyes lingered, still searching mine. She started, but didn't finish. She turned away, jar in hand, walking toward the voice. Her stride was steady again, graceful like before. But at the end of the aisle, she looked back, just once. And that look said everything she hadn't. I didn't expect to see her again. But 2 days later, she walked into the same store. Same time, same quiet sunlight filtering through the glass. And looked surprised to see me stocking shelves. Or maybe not surprised. Maybe she was hoping to. She gave a small nod, a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Back here again?" she asked. "Guess I work too much," I said, trying to keep it casual. She smiled properly this time, but her fingers fiddled with the strap of her bag. A small, nervous movement that didn't fit the confident woman I thought I'd met. "Works better than being home sometimes," she said softly. That hung in the air for a beat too long. Could have let it go. I should have. But something about her tone, the quiet fatigue in it, made me ask, "You live close by?" She nodded. "A few blocks. Quiet. Too quiet, maybe." Her voice caught a little, like the words weren't meant for me to hear. The silence between us filled up again. Familiar now, but heavier. I noticed the faint mark where a ring might have been, pale against her skin. I didn't ask. She noticed me noticing. Her lips pressed together. Not angry, just guarded. Old habits, she said finally, barely above a whisper. They leave shadows. I wanted to say something, anything, but she was already moving past me, reaching for something on a lower shelf this time. Her shoulder brushed mine. Once, twice, too close to call it coincidence. When she turned back, our faces were inches apart. Her breath caught against my cheek, warm, slow, and deliberate in its hesitation. You really don't have to help, she said. I know, I answered. That pause. It stretched again, the kind that bends reason, that makes simple things sound like invitations. Her eyes softened, and for a second she looked tired. Not in the way people look after a long day, but the kind of tired that sits in the bones. The kind that comes from being alone too long. She broke the gaze first. So, she said, forcing a small laugh. How old are you anyway? 24, I said. She blinked, then nodded like she already knew. You've got that newness about you, she said, smiling faintly. Everything still feels possible. Her words stung and pulled me closer all at once. And for you? I asked. Her expression changed. Something flickered behind her calm. For me, it's complicated, she said. People expect you to be finished by now, to stop wanting things. She turned slightly, her shoulder brushing mine again as she reached for something she didn't need. Her hand lingered on my arm longer than it should have, light, but steady. Her thumb grazed once, like she wasn't sure if she meant to. We both pretended not to notice. Someone passed by the aisle, and she withdrew her hand slowly, eyes lowering as if she'd been caught. But as she walked away, she spoke just loud enough for me to hear. Thank you again, for helping. The words were ordinary, but her voice carried something behind them, a quiet confession wrapped in routine. And when she left, the space around me still felt like she was standing there. Her perfume, her warmth, her hesitation. Everything about her stayed. It started raining that evening, one of those slow, indecisive rains that didn't quite commit. I just finished my shift when I saw her outside, standing under the narrow awning by the entrance, looking at the street like she was deciding whether to wait or run for it. She spotted me through the glass. Her expression softened, the kind of look that happens before someone remembers they shouldn't be smiling. You again, she said when I stepped out. You could say the same, I said, holding out my umbrella. You'll get soaked. She hesitated. I'll be fine. But the drizzle turned heavier, and a cold gust swept between us. She sighed, that small, defeated sound people make when they realize resistance has turned into pretending. Fine, she said quietly, stepping closer. We can share. We walked side by side, the umbrella barely wide enough for two. Her shoulder brushed mine every few steps. I could feel her warmth through the thin sleeve of her coat. Neither of us said anything for a while. Just the steady rhythm of rain and the sound of her breath close to my ear. Do people ever stare? I asked before I could stop myself. Her glance flicked toward me. At what? At us, I said. You know. She looked away, but I saw the faintest twitch of a smile. They might. It wouldn't be the first time. Does it bother you? Her pause was long enough to be its own answer. Then softly, it should. Car passed, splashing through puddles. The sound broke the tension for half a second. Then she turned toward me, close enough that the umbrella's edge caught her hair. She reached up instinctively, brushing a strand back. Her hand stayed near my face, fingers trembling slightly. Your generation, she murmured. You all think you can just want something and it'll make sense. I swallowed. Does it have to make sense? Her eyes searched mine, calm but unsteady underneath. She didn't answer. Instead, her hand dropped, catching my wrist on the way down. The touch froze both of us. Then a sharp tone broke the moment, her phone buzzing in her coat pocket. She flinched like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Her hand left mine. She fumbled for the phone, glancing at the screen. It's just someone from work, she said quickly. Too quickly. The rain hit harder. The umbrella tilted, water sliding down between us. I could smell her perfume again, warmer now, mixed with the faint scent of rain and her nervous breath. She tucked the phone away, staring at the street. I should go. But she didn't move. Not yet. Instead, she looked up at me again. Eyes searching, lips parting like there was something she wanted to say but couldn't risk saying out loud. I thought she might step back. She didn't. Her hand rose again, barely touching my chest, resting there as if testing the space between us. The air tightened. Then she whispered, "You make this harder than it should be." And still she didn't move away. We stood there under the same small umbrella, the rain whispering around us. Two people pretending they weren't already too close. I told myself I wouldn't go, that I'd ignore the urge to see her again, to find another excuse, to step back into something already halfway dangerous. But the next evening, I found myself standing outside her cafe. She'd mentioned it once, that she managed it part-time, to stay busy. Through the window, she was wiping down the counter, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled just enough to show her wrists. She looked up, and just like that, she saw me. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. When I walked in, the bell over the door chimed sharp, small, too loud for how quiet the place was. "You're late," she said, pretending it was normal that I was there at all. "For what?" I asked. Her lips curved faintly. "For pretending you wouldn't come." That landed between us like a truth neither of us had agreed to speak aloud. She poured me a coffee she didn't charge me for, then leaned across the counter, elbows resting on polished wood. "You shouldn't make a habit of this," she said, voice low. "I already did," I answered. Her eyes flicked to mine, a warning and an invitation at once. The sound of rain outside deepened, and the cafe lights dimmed just enough to blur the space around us. "People talk," she said after a moment. "They always do. Let them," I said before I could stop myself. She exhaled slowly, and I saw it. That flicker of something she tried to hide. Fear, or maybe longing dressed as restraint. "I can't," she began, but her voice caught. She looked down, tracing the rim of my cup with her fingertip. The movement was slow, deliberate, like she was trying to give her hands something to do while her thoughts unraveled. I stood, moving around the counter without thinking. She didn't stop me. When I reached her, she looked up, startled but not afraid. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "Tell me to go, then," I said. Her breath shook. "I can't." I was close enough now to see the faint freckles near her collarbone, the way one loose strand of hair kept falling across her cheek. I reached up, brushing it back, my fingers grazing her skin. She leaned into the touch before she realized she had. Then she froze, caught between impulse and reason. "This isn't fair," she said softly. "Maybe not," I murmured. "But it's real." Her hand found my arm. Lightly at first, then tighter, like she was steadying herself. Her voice trembled. "You don't understand. If this starts, it can't just be nothing." "It isn't nothing," I said. Silence. Just her breathing, uneven now, matching mine. For a heartbeat, the space between us disappeared. Her face tilted toward mine, her lips parting just enough. The cafe door opened. A gust of wind and the sound of laughter rushed in. We jumped apart. A customer stepped in, smiling, unaware of what they'd interrupted. She looked at me once more, eyes dark, pulse visible at her throat, and whispered, "Go, please." But when I reached the door, her reflection in the glass didn't turn away. Part 5. What she didn't say. I didn't see her for a week. Not at the store, not at the cafe. Just silence, the kind that hums in your chest like static. I told myself to let it fade, to let her fade. But every time it rained, I thought of her. Then, one evening, I found a folded note slipped under the cafe door when I stopped by after closing. No name, no greeting, just, "If you want to talk, come by after hours. I owe you the truth." It wasn't signed. It didn't have to be. When I pushed the door open that night, the lights were low, only a single lamp behind the counter. She was sitting there, coat draped over the chair beside her, looking like she'd been waiting too long. "You came," she said quietly. "I said I would." She gave a humorless smile. "You shouldn't have." For a moment neither of us spoke. The air was thick. Not angry, not soft, just too full of what hadn't been said. She reached for her cup, hands trembling slightly. "There's something you don't know," she said. I waited. "My ex," she started, then stopped, steadying herself. "He still comes around sometimes. Not to see me, not really. To check if I'm fine without him." Her eyes lifted to mine. "He saw us. That night. Outside." The words hit like cold water. I stepped closer before I realized I had. "What did he say?" "Nothing," she said. "Not yet. But he doesn't need to. He knows me too well. He'll find a way to make it something." I could see the fear under her calm. The way her jaw tightened. The faint tremor in her hand when she reached for her cup again and missed. "I'm sorry," I said. "I never meant to." "Don't," she cut in, voice sharp, then softer. "Don't say you're sorry. You didn't do anything wrong." She stood then, close enough that the lamplight caught the edge of her face. Tired, beautiful, conflicted. "You don't understand," she said. "He's the kind of man who doesn't like being replaced. Especially by someone like you." "Someone like me?" Her eyes flicked over me. "Young, uncertain, maybe reckless. You make me forget how old I am," she said. "How careful I'm supposed to be." Her confession cracked something in the air. She turned to walk away, but I caught her wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop her. "You think I care what he sees?" I said. She looked down at my hand, then up into my eyes. "You should," she whispered. The silence that followed was unbearable. She didn't pull away. She stepped closer instead, her pulse visible at her throat. "Because if you don't," she said, voice shaking, "this stops being something we can hide." Her phone buzzed on the counter. The name on the screen lit the room. Mark X. Her breath hitched. My hand loosened. She looked at me once. A glance heavy with warning, regret, and everything between, and said, "You should go before he gets here." But she didn't move. Neither did I. Part 6. The edge of everything. The rain was back. Harder this time, loud enough to drown thought. I shouldn't have gone to her place. But after she told me about him, after the way she'd looked at me, like she wanted to protect me from something I didn't even understand, there was no version of me that could stay away. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised, just tired, like she'd already imagined me standing there. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "I know," I said, "but you didn't tell me to stop caring." That made her look up. Her eyes were rimmed red. Not from tears, exactly, but from holding too many of them back. "I thought if I pushed you away it would be easier," she said. "For both of us." "And is it?" She laughed once, short, breathless. No, the silence that followed had weight, the kind that fills every inch of a room. I took a step closer. She didn't move. Her hand was on the doorframe, knuckles white. I reached up, slow enough that she could have stopped me, and brushed my fingers against hers. She exhaled, eyes fluttering shut. "You make it impossible to think," she whispered. "Maybe we've done enough thinking." She opened her eyes, and for a second everything else, the rules, the fear, the noise of the rain, fell away. "You don't know what this costs me," she said. "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me what it costs, and I'll pay it too." Something in her broke then, not in weakness, but in surrender. She stepped forward, closing the last of the distance between us. Her hand found my chest, trembling against the fabric, like she was testing if I was really there. I could feel her breath against my skin, the warmth of it fighting the cold air seeping in from outside. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "If I cross this line, there's no pretending anymore. Then don't pretend." Her lips parted, but before anything more could happen, she pressed her forehead against mine, eyes shut tight, shaking her head. "This isn't about wanting," she said. "It's about needing, and I don't know which one of us will regret it more." My hands found her waist. Not pulling, not holding, just resting there. Maybe regret's better than never knowing. For a moment we just breathed, the same rhythm, the same hesitation. Then she leaned in almost barely. The world held its breath. But instead of a kiss, she whispered, "Stay." Just one word. A choice. A surrender. I nodded once. And in that small, fragile silence, with the rain still roaring outside, we finally stopped running from what had been building since that first touch on the shelf. She closed the door behind me, not to hide, but to stop pretending she wanted to. Part 7. After the rain, the storm had passed by morning. The air smelled clean, like something had been washed away, but neither of us spoke about what we'd crossed the night before. She sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, coffee in hand. Her hair was loose, still a little damp from the shower. I stood by the window, watching the street glisten in pale sunlight. "Do you regret it?" I asked finally. She didn't answer right away, just stared into her cup, then looked up at me. "No," she said. "I regret waiting this long to feel something again." That landed like a soft blow. Honest, quiet, heavy with everything we hadn't said before. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders brushed. The contact was small, but it felt like an anchor, real, grounding. She let out a slow breath and leaned slightly toward me, the side of her face brushing my arm. "For so long," she said, "I told myself it was easier to stay numb, safer. People look at me and see someone who should have stopped wanting by now." I turned to her. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone." Her lips curved faintly. "And you? You don't feel strange about this?" I thought about the looks, the whispers that would come if anyone knew. Then I shook my head. "Strange, yeah. Wrong, no." She smiled at that. A small, unguarded smile, the kind that showed the girl she might have been once. Her hand slid down, fingers finding mine. She didn't squeeze, just held them there, warm and sure. "I thought you'd leave," she said. "I almost did," I admitted. "But I realized I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." Something in her face softened. Relief? Disbelief? Maybe both. She leaned closer until her head rested on my shoulder. Her voice came out muffled, almost like she didn't mean for me to hear it. "You make me feel seen," she whispered. The room went still again, but this time it wasn't tense. It was calm, the kind of silence that lets people breathe. We stayed like that for a while, not talking, just existing in the same space. Her thumb traced small circles over the back of my hand, slow and thoughtless. Finally, she tilted her head up, eyes searching mine. "So what now?" she asked. I brushed a strand of hair from her face, my thumb lingering just a second longer than it should have. "Now," I said, "we stop pretending this wasn't real." She smiled, tired, grateful, open, and leaned forward until her forehead rested against mine. Not a kiss, just closeness. Outside, sunlight finally broke through the clouds, catching on the window glass and scattering across the room. We sat there in that warm, quiet light, her hand in mine, both of us knowing it wouldn't be easy, but that it was ours. And for the first time, neither of us felt the need to look away. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?